Welcome back, travelers, to Legendary Lore, where Joe? What? No, Joe.
And I'm Ricky, and this is Legendary Lore of Innistrad.
Okay, Ricky, take it away then.
Okay, so it's got a bunch of monsters and creepy crawlies and stuff, and if you're gonna go there, you're gonna be a ghost, so don't go there. But actually go there because there's a new set coming out.
First off, be Geist. Second off, we're talking about werewolves today. Ooh. So basically the idea is that Innistradi werewolves have basically just been thrust into the world. We don't really have an idea of where they came from. We know how they work though, and we're gonna get into that right now.
I mean, there's enough people working on stuff. Somebody probably accidentally invented lycanthropy. We'll likely get an explanation for it here in Midnight Hunt.
And what's cool is that there are 4 different packs, okay? They're called Howlpacks. And so the main thing about these 4 different Howlpacks is their ideologies and how they function as a group. So you have the biggest one called the Krallen Horde. The Krallen Horde is such an epic name that it just sounds like, oh, have you heard of the Krallen Horde? Oh yeah, that death metal band from New England? Yeah. I was going to say Norway, but I felt like that was a little too easy. So basically the way it works is that the Krallen Horde is a group that has been around for decades. And there are anywhere from 50 to over 200 werewolves that live in the Krallen Horde group. And it fluctuates like that because it depends on the amount of prey and the phases of the moon. They're led by Ulrich, or Ulrich. Ulrich makes sense. And basically what he does is that he will stay with the wolves that are like he has in the pack with him, because it's like an intermingling of werewolves and wolves, right? Mm-hmm. He stays with the wolves even in human form. And I love that idea of everyone else just goes about their normal day. Like you got the guy who's a blacksmith and he's Iron Fang at night, but in the day he works on people's metal. And he's like, oh, your door hinges broke? Sorry, I'll fix them for you. And stuff like that. And then you have the Gatstaff Shepherd who he works with his sheep and he's like, oh yes, my good little sheepy, sleepy sheepy. And at night he's and so like,
why are they all ironic? Just like, well, here's your weapon. They don't work against wolves though. Why? Mm-hmm. I don't know how to make weapons against wolves. My sheepy.
I would like to say
my sheep.
Both of the things I just referenced are actual cards.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that was kind of the idea. You even had the Hanweir. Fun fact, the Hanweir is a special town. You might hear about it later on, but they're basically just these very, very closed in people that try to protect themselves, and they happen to have a werewolf as their guard. So that's
awesome.
But we're never going to see another card that transforms from Hanweir ever again. So,
well, that's good.
That said, you got Ulrich's place, which is a combination of what's referred to as repentant and wanton werewolves. Werewolves that enjoy being werewolves and revel in the hunt and all that stuff, and werewolves that try to be normal as they can be, right? So then you have
and that's the blacksmith and the shepherd?
Yeah, that kind of idea of these are the people that want to be normal, or at least
they're trying to be normal and they don't want to get jobs that like won't interfere with their werewolfing. Like the shepherd, just like, it'd be a shame if somebody came and ruined my life's work. It's a good thing it won't be me.
So then you have the Mondronen Howlpack, or Mondronen. I don't know how it's pronounced.
Those are more magic based, right?
Yes, exactly that. How do you know that?
The Mondronen Shaman.
Exactly. So this Howlpack has about 60 in it, right? It fluctuates, of course, like all the other ones, but not as much because it's just it's a much more smaller knit thing, right? So they tend to stay away from civilization. They stick to like farmlands, rural communities, little monasteries out in the woods kind of thing. And they, ever since Avacyn disappeared, which is why I'm talking about them now, have gotten a bit more brave. They're starting to get a little bit closer to the cities. Then you have the Lerog Jenkins Howlpack. And so this is a very, very small group. This is probably one of the smallest groups, right?
I never heard about them.
Yes. So they are the most vicious werewolf predators.
Oh, great.
They, instead of hunting during the full moon and stuff like that, where there's really good visibility. They prefer to hunt during the new moon, with just pitch black darkness everywhere.
This isn't your average everyday darkness.
Can you guess what they prefer to eat, or who they prefer to eat? Thinking about what we already know as far as how these guys are basically super evil werewolves.
Priests.
You're close. They prefer specifically the flesh and entrails of children.
Oh.
And they prefer their method to be going through chimneys and windows of orphanages and small homes.
Oh, so they're straight up Santa Clausing them to death.
Yes. These guys are the most evil of the evil werewolves.
That's so sad.
Yes. The Krallen Horde has some werewolves that are repentant. The Mondronen tend to stay away from people as best as they can, sticking to the weaker areas that can be easily picked off. But the Leerog will seek out and just devour children like they're from a grim fairy tale. And then you have the Vilden. The Vilden and Vildens. They are basically only murderers. And they are specifically humans who were murderers before becoming werewolves.
That's specific.
So all the members of the Wilden Howlpack, which is also small, it's a group basically. That's what it's referred to as opposed to like this amount of people. It's just a group. They're all serial killers, or at least some kind of murderer. Before we go on to Arlen Cord, who obviously is the one we want to talk about, I'm going to just real quick mention Tovolar. Tovolar has not been given a card yet, but he is the head of the Mondronen Howlpack, right?
So he's like this weird witch mage werewolf.
Yes. He is mute, has silver fur, and has never turned back into his human form.
He sounds so cool.
And he leads his pack with howling songs, and he revels in carnage.
He's gonna love the new Marvel movie coming up.
Also, just for the sake of having covered it, the leaders of the Leerog Howlpack, their name is Skahara, and then Rahilda is the leader of the Vilden Howlpack. And those are just two, they're basically just mentioned kind of thing. They're not actually, they don't have any story behind them. But those are the four different groups that are controlled by the different people. Ulrich, Tovolar, Skahara, and Rahilda. But yeah,
okay.
Arlen Cord. She's kind of super important to the story of the Innistrad, I feel. I'm hoping in this next set.
I'm hoping it's her thing.
By this point, we should already have seen the new Arlen Cord card. And so I'm going to really enjoy getting to put that up right now. I don't know why I'm looking up because it would be to my side, but you get the idea. In her werewolf form, she still has clothes. She has this pauldron that she like keeps even when she's in wolf form, right?
Same.
I
also wear a pink and blue tie-dye bunny shirt when I turn into a werewolf.
So she's from the town of Avabrook. And the Mondronen werewolf pack that we talked about, the one that tend to stay in like the villages and stuff out there, they summoned her into the forest and she completed her first hunt with them.
Oh, that's cool.
But the thing is, she didn't like being a werewolf. She actively fought against it the majority of the time. And she would use Abyssinian charms, prayers, she would fast, and it was pretty good at warding it off as long as she could. She even specifically studied magic in the Church of Avacyn while hiding her curse from her teachers and mentors. From people that have been taught to kill werewolves on sight, she lived among them and hid it.
Wow.
Yeah, this is some serious lupus. Lupus, not Sirius. Sirius was just an animagus, but you get the idea.
Lupin.
She was working with the Gold Knight too. This wasn't like she wasn't with like Bruna, who was like, "Oh, put these enchantments and you'll be safe." She was with Gisella's group, the ones that are like blow stuff up if it looks
Like,
evil.
remember, you gotta kill werewolves when you see them. Right. Yeah. Hate werewolves.
And so the day she herself became an archmage of Gold Knight, so a really high rank magician basically, she and her friends were all confronted by a horde of devils at Havengul. And while she was fighting them, they were being overwhelmed and she couldn't contain the change. And she transformed and she killed all the devils.
But she got shunned as a result.
She also killed several hierarchs.
Aw.
And the trauma, as you may imagine, sparked ignited her spark. And
Good old trauma. It's always a way to get away from
trauma.
That's really the thing too. It's a good metaphor. Just like trauma, you want to get away. What's the best way to get away? Be the strongest being in this land.
Yeah, pretty much. And so she transforms and realizes that since she left Innistrad, she can't transform back. She was stuck a werewolf once she was outside of the world. That's why when you see her outside of Innistrad, she's just one or the other. So far I've only seen her as Arlen, voice of the pack, where she was just a person that worked with werewolves. But she can only transform when on Innistrad. And so
That's
she goes,
so weird.
Yeah. And I feel like the main reason for that is so that they don't have to force her to have a transforming card in every set she appears in.
It was good on the storyteller's part.
No, yeah, it's a very clever way of making it so that she mechanically does not need a double face card every time she shows up.
Yeah. Like Luke is probably going to.
Yes. Oh no. So basically.
But also Arlen's a really strong mage in addition to being a werewolf.
True.
Why doesn't she have better cards?
Well, because they just haven't given her one yet. She's only gotten 2 so far. We're gonna get to see this new one. Ooh, hopefully.
True.
The end of this episode, we're gonna talk about Alena and Helena real quick.
In this world.
Joe, you good? You've been decoing it up for a bit there. So what's happening?
No, we're good.
Okay, it's cool. So you got Helena and Alena, both of which are obviously derived from the name Elena. Or Helen. So basically what happens is that these guys are trackers, hunters, protectors of the Ulvenwald, and they specifically fight werewolves and vampires and people possessed by demons or geists. And so their whole deal is that they protect the towns. You will get a little bit more about them later on when things really start to get all eldritch, but for the moment, just know this couple, they specifically protect the woods and are really good at killing lycanthropes.
Nice.
So yeah, that's the story of Elena Helena, and that is the majority of the stuff that has to do with werewolves.
Definitely looking forward to that. If you guys want a spoiler on that, go ahead and check out our legendary lore of Commander Legends.
Oh yeah.
Where you can get tiny little blurbs on both Liesa and Elena and Helena. In the meantime, go ahead and leave a like if you like this video and subscribe for the rest of this legendary lore. It's going to be going on for a while. Hope you're here for it, because I unfortunately am too. So you guys have to suffer with me.
Fantastic.